Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unraveling a totally everyday, yet honestly incredibly fascinating culinary mystery. So picture this. You cook up a huge batch of rice or maybe some pasta for dinner. You leave it out on the stove for a bit to cool down, toss it in the fridge, and then, the next day, you pop it in the microwave until it is literally steaming hot. You eat it, and bam! Suddenly you're hit with a massive bout of foodborne illness. Right? I mean, how is that even possible? Didn't the heat kill everything? Well, that's exactly what we're going to figure out today. Seriously, think about your own kitchen habits for a second. Is your leftover rice actually safe to eat? We're all taught that heat destroys germs. We just assume that if we take a bowl of leftover rice, nuke it in the microwave until it's piping hot, we've eliminated any risks, right? We think we've completely sanitized our meal. Well, what if I told you that in some very specific but very common scenarios, reheating your food thoroughly does absolutely nothing to protect you? Kind of plants a little seed of doubt, doesn't it?
Section 1. The Leftover Rice Mystery.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture a domestic scenario that you are probably intimately familiar with. We've all done it. You're cooking starchy meals, rice, pasta, maybe potatoes. After dinner, instead of boxing it all up right away, you just leave the food on the counter to cool down for a few hours. Then, you store it, and the next day you reheat it thoroughly. But despite doing what totally seems like the right thing, you still get hit with sudden, intense food poisoning. It feels inexplicable. But, as it turns out, science tells us there's a very specific sequence of events happening here, driven by a highly specialized culprit.
Section 2. Meet Bacillus cereus.
Meet our prime suspect. Notice the duality here. You've got the physical colonies growing on a culture plate on one hand, and then a microscopic look at it, its cellular structure on the other. Now, this pathogen is widely distributed in nature. I mean, it is literally everywhere. It's readily isolated from soil, from dust, vegetation. In fact, low levels of it are found on virtually every raw agricultural commodity out there, from herbs and spices to vegetables and milk. Because it comes right from the earth, it's basically everywhere our food is grown.
Bacillus cereus is a gram-positive, rod-shaped, spore-forming bacterium. But here is the absolute most fascinating detail from the research. It actually migrates into the rice seed as it grows in the field. It hides out inside the hardened grain of rice in spore form. So when the rice is harvested, processed, and bagged up for the grocery store, this bacteria is already there. It survived the entire agricultural processing phase, and it's just sitting there, waiting for the right conditions, what experts call temperature abuse, to start multiplying.
Section 3. A Tale of Two Toxins.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Bacillus cereus actually causes two completely distinct types of foodborne illness. First up is the emetic or vomiting intoxication. Now, this is triggered by a specific toxin called cereulide that is preformed directly in the food while it's just sitting out on your counter. Because the poison is already in the food before you even eat it, the onset is incredibly fast, like we're talking anywhere from 30 minutes to 5 hours. On the flip side, we have the diarrheal infection. This happens when you ingest the live bacterial cells, which then produce enterotoxins, essentially poisons targeting your intestines later on, inside your small intestine. And because that has to happen inside you, the onset is a lot slower, usually 8 to 24 hours after you eat.
So the crucial point is this threshold, 100,000. In microbiology, they measure this as 10 to the power of 5 colony-forming units, which is essentially individual bacterial cells per gram of food. That's your infective dose threshold. If a food sits out and allows Bacillus cereus to multiply to 100,000 cells per gram, certain strains will just start pumping out that rapid onset emetic toxin right into your rice. Now, it sounds like a massive number, right? But on a microscopic scale, bacteria can hit this threshold unbelievably quickly if they're given the right environment. And what exactly is that perfect environment? Well, Bacillus cereus loves a pH of 6 to 7, which is basically neutral, very much like rice and pasta. But more importantly, look at the temperature. Its absolute optimum growth zone is between 30 and 40 degrees Celsius. While that is quite warm, think about this. As your hot food cools down on the kitchen counter, it spends hours slowly dropping right through this exact danger zone temperature range. Your cooling pot of rice is essentially functioning as a 5-star luxury resort for these bacteria to just rapidly multiply.
Section 4. The spore superpower.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between the two life stages of this bacteria. When they're in their active growing state, which we call vegetative cells, they're actually pretty weak. Routine cooking to just 60 degrees Celsius destroys them, and so does standard stomach acid. But when they get stressed, they transform into endospores. And in this dormant state, they are practically invincible armadillos. They're highly resistant to heat, UV light, extreme acid, and even total dehydration. just how invincible are we talking? Well, according to risk profile data, Bacillus cereus spores can survive gastric acidity, cooking at or below 100 degrees Celsius, and even sitting in dry cereal for almost a year. I mean, really think about that. When you boil your rice in water at 100 degrees Celsius, yeah, you're killing the weak vegetative cells for sure, but those hardy spores, the ones that migrated into the grain way back in the field, they survive the boiling process completely untouched. Then, as the rice cools on your counter, the spores wake up, turn back into vegetative cells, and start multiplying and pumping out toxin.
And here is the ultimate aha moment that completely solves our mystery. Let's say you left the rice out, the spores germinated, and they produce that emetic toxin, cereulide. The next day, you decide to microwave the leftover rice until it's steaming hot. Well, the cereulide toxin can survive 121 degrees Celsius for 90 minutes. Reheating your food in a microwave or on the stove will kill the live bacteria, yes, but it does not destroy the preformed toxin. The poison is already baked into the meal. And this is exactly why people still get violently sick even after thoroughly reheating their leftover.
Section 5. How to stay safe. And this brilliantly illustrates how you can protect yourself. Just follow a simple, memorable triad of action. Step 1. Cook hot. Ensure a core temperature above 75 degrees Celsius. Step 2, and honestly, this is the most critical one to stop Bacillus cereus. Cool fast. Do not leave your rice or pasta sitting out on the stove all evening. Food must be cooled and placed in a refrigerator within 2 hours to prevent those surviving spores from germinating and producing that invincible toxin. And step 3, store cold. Keep the food in your fridge at 5 degrees Celsius or lower to halt bacterial growth.
But remember, even the fridge isn't some permanent magic pause button. According to USDA recommendations, you really should use cooked leftovers within 3 to 4 days. Why? Because refrigeration slows down bacterial growth, but it does not stop it completely. Over time, spoilage bacteria and even certain cold-thriving pathogens will slowly multiply. So you still have a ticking clock, even at 5 degrees Celsius.
So, knowing what you know now about the invisible, spore-forming, heat-resistant nature of Bacillus cereus and how it just patiently waits for your rice to cool down just a bit too much, are you going to rethink how you handle your dinner leftovers tonight? For sure, make sure you get that pasta straight into the fridge. Thanks for exploring this culinary mystery with us, and keep asking the big questions about the small things in our world.